Good morning, everyone. The first bill we have on the agenda is House File 3438. Representative Lilly, would you like to move that House File 3438 be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means?
Thank you, Vice Chair Jordan. I'll move that House File 3438 be re-referred to the Committee of Ways and Means.
And then Representative Lilly, it looks like you have an author's amendment coded DE5. Would you like to move that amendment and tell us about it?
Yes, I'd like to move the DE5, and it's essentially an amendment that gathers everything kind of together and puts it in a shape that we can work on today. So thank you.
Any discussion to the amendment? Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the author of the DE5. It looks like what you've done here, Chair Lilly, is you've just added some Clean Water Fund appropriations in here. And I know that we talk a lot here about how much these projects get vetted. And I don't think that they get vetted as much as they should be. I think that we move a lot of stuff through that that we really don't even know where the money's going. And I was looking through the DE, the clean water portion of the DE, and I really don't see anything specific here. It looks like there was just some surplus money, and it was divided up and said, and just thrown out there and stuck to different portions. Is there anything that you have, any kind of documentation to show that these projects that are receiving this much money, and it's a considerable amount of money, that were they vetted at all?
Representative Lilly.
Vice Chair Jordan and Representative Green, I was hoping that we could get the bill in the shape that I'd like, and then have the discussion, certainly. These in the clean water area were discussed in the Environment Committee, of which you're a member, so I'm sure you heard the discussion. And then we had an opportunity in our own committee to kind of hear further discussion. Some of these are new ideas. Some of them are separate bills that various members have been working on, or that have either moved through the process and I think maybe a couple haven't. But a lot of them are adding, to the, added bills in that have been worked on by other members of this body.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then, well, then the other question then is, you wanted to move this through, and it's kind of like, let's vote on it so we can see what's in it. Yeah, we did talk about these, but it doesn't say that they've been vetted. And I do know that there's some testifiers on this, some for, and I think some against. But either way, if we move the DE and pass it before we have discussion on it, then we already have a bill in front of us that hasn't been vetted again. So are you proposing now to go to testimony, and should we listen to testimony, or are we going to pass this before we get to testimony?
Vice Chair Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The intention was to get the shape the bill in the shape the author intends, and then go to testimony, and then go to amendments and discussion. Representative Lilly, or should I go back to Representative?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to be recognized too, but Vice Chair Jordan, Representative Green, and Vice Chair Jordan's correct. We're hoping to, or I'm hoping as the author to have the discussion, but not at this time. I mean, it's tradition of this body to, legislature to move the author's amendment and then have, discussion or no discussion or robust discussion, whatever you need. But that's kind of the tradition. So, and I would appreciate your support on that.
Lead Green.
Well, okay. Well, Madam Chair, thank you. And thank you for the explanation, Chair Lilly. But you're talking about a DE that absolutely changes the whole bill. And so I don't know where this is going to stand in the other body. but a bill that may pass the other body, which I guess for me, if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's up to the vote. But I believe that the DE is thicker than the bill, or the new portion is thicker than the original bill. And so I think it's a little backwards, but it is your committee. And if you want to put it on first, I guess you can, but it just seems to me that the amount of changes going in here, the lack of any vetting of these projects and where this money is going to be spent kind of flies in the face of even some of the language that's in the original bill. And I guess I can direct you to page 24, starting at line 4, where it talks about that they should be used for specific things. The money that's spent during and that's of course in the outdoor heritage, but the Clean Water Fund is part of legacy too. So anyway, I won't belabor it. I mean, if you want to pass the amendment first, that's certainly up to you, but it seems a little backwards to me. Thanks.
Thanks for your feedback, Representative Green. So seeing no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
No.
Well, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Representative Willie, to your bill.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jordan, and thank you, committee members. This is really common practice for the committee bill to be merged together, in a DE amendment. And I'm on Commerce, and we're putting together the big bills at the end, and then they roll out. I just every committee that's very common. So I think we're going to have a good discussion. Sounds like, but so this is a committee bill for the Legacy Committee that we're rolling out today, and with us I have again, which is kind of practice, to have our STAR nonpartisan staff to go through the bill. So I'm going to ask them to help us go through the bill, and then hopefully that answers some of the questions that members have, and then from there we can have some discussions. So I'm, Madam Chair, if you could have Mr. Hagemeyer begin, and then kind of move down and through the presenters, that'd be great.
Thank you, Representative Willie. Mr. Hagemeyer, I think you're first on my list.
I am, Madam Chair. I will go through the tracking sheet very briefly here. Let me just share the screen so you can see that. For the 4 articles of supplemental appropriations, this would be the DE5 that you have in front of you. Article 1 includes the Outdoor Heritage Council recommendations as they were laid over in committee. There were no fiscal changes to that bill at all. You'll see the column labeled HF 3726. This was the original council recommendations. The DE5 includes the supplemental recommendations that were heard by the committee earlier this session and laid over. They just appropriated an additional amount that was based on the February forecast. So all of the projects got a little bit more money. You'll see the internal numbers. Some of those with the brackets changed and some did not. That was just based on the grantees where they wished to allocate the money that was allocated to the project. So in total, Article 1 is the Outdoor Heritage Fund appropriations, and appropriates $159,049,000. And again, this is the only one of the 4 funds that receives an annual recommendation. So it's the full amount of funding for fiscal year 23 being included in this bill. On the second page, or sorry, on the 4th page, you'll have the Clean Water Fund. And again, this would be House File 43771E that was heard in committee last week. The recommendations are the same in the DE5 that is in front of you. So the bill that was heard last week and laid over is what is included for Article 2. And the total appropriations for Article 2 for the Clean Water Fund were $47,399,000, which brings that to a 5% reserve level. That is the required amount in statute. Starting on line 147 is the Parks and Trails Fund. This is one where we didn't specifically see these numbers, but this would be what was passed last year, the first set of columns, the total appropriations of $110,681,000. This bill in Article 3, the DE5, includes adding money to bring it down to the 5% reserve level requirement. So $6.547 million is being added to the projects, and they each get a proportional percent of 5.92% increase. So it still adheres to the 40-40-20 split with each of the state parks, metro parks, and greater Minnesota parks and trails, and then the coordination among partners getting a little bump too, but it adheres to the 40-40-20 split that has been historically appropriated. On line 169 is the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Again, these were appropriated last year, the first set of columns for fiscal year 22 and 23. The total appropriations last year were, scroll on to the bottom, $149,749,000. And then you'll see over here, based on the subsequent forecast, there's more money available. So this DE5 Article 4 appropriates an additional $12,096,000, which is about an 8.08% increase for each of the projects. They were proportionally allocated to each of the projects in the second year, just for ease of being fiscal year 23 for the appropriations. You'll see there's only 2 projects that didn't have this, which were first year carve outs of a larger amount. The legacy book program had $213,000 as a first year carve out, and I believe it was Veterans Voices had a first year carve out where we didn't know if it made sense to allocate the change because we're not changing fiscal year 22 amounts. But all of the projects had the 8.08% added in the second year of the biennium. So in total, it was the 12,096,000 added to the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Based on the DE5, the Outdoor Heritage Fund and the February forecast would be at a 6% reserve. The Clean Water Fund, the Parks and Trails Fund, and the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund would all be at a 5% reserve based on that February forecast. And that's all I have on the tracking sheet. And I believe Ms. Taylor and Ms. Mullen can go over any changes that were done statutorily.
Thank you, Mr. Hagemeyer. Next on my list, I have Janelle Taylor from our nonpartisan staff. Ms. Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to walk through the DE5 amendment. And what I'm going to do is just point out what's different from what has been heard. Article 1, as Mr. Hagemeyer said, is the Outdoor Heritage Fund, and it reflects the dollar amounts that the committee heard previously. And there were no changes to the language as the committee heard it. So then we can skip ahead to Article 2, which is on page 27 of the DE. And this is the Clean Water Fund article. This reflects the language that was in House File 4377, the first engrossment, which is very similar to what the committee heard. There was just some technical changes made when it was engrossed, but otherwise the language should be the same as the committee heard it. And then if you want to skip ahead to page 30, there's a new section 2. This would make the legislative members of the Clean Water Council voting members. And then there's a new section 3 on page 31. This would require the Clean Water Council to make their recommendations annually, like the Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council, and then also change when the recommendations are due from December 1st to January 15th. And then on the bottom of that page, you'll see section 4. This is the extension for the Ash River Sanitary Sewer Collection and Treatment Facility Planning Project that we heard previously. And then that would take us to Article 3 that starts on page 32. Sections 1, 2, and 3 are the sections that would proportionally increase the Parks and Trails appropriations, as Mr. Hagemeyer mentioned. And then if you want to skip ahead to page 35 on section 4 and 5, these are the extensions for the coordination among partners that we heard earlier in committee. There's no changes to the language there. And then the final section in that article is section 6 on page 36. This is the extension for the Central Park project. This is as the committee heard it, except there has been given an additional year for the extension. And then that takes us to Article 4, and I believe Ms. Mullen will take care of that.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Mullen, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and members, this is Mary Mullen from House Research. Article 4, as Mr. Hagemeyer explained, has proportional increases to the 2023 appropriation based on new revenue. And then it also has one extension for a previous appropriation to the Historical Society. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Mullen. And thank you to all of our nonpartisan staff for all of your help in putting this together and walking us through the bill. I think next we're going to go to public testimony. First on my list is Mohammed Farah from Kajug. Mr. Farah.
Chair and members of this committee, good morning. I am here in support of the amendment, House File 3438. My name is Mohammed Farah. I am the Executive Director of Kajog. It's a Somali youth development organization tailored towards enriching the lives of Somali American youth by utilizing the positive elements of education, mentoring, employment, and the arts. Kajog was established in 2007. Our mission is to create a better world by providing community-based, culturally specific programs and services to youth and their families through education, the arts, and economic development. We are a Somali-led statewide organization that works primarily with East African community across the state. For years, we have been coordinating Somali arts and cultural heritage projects throughout the state, building trust, cohesiveness, relationships within the Somali community and with the greater community is a key part of our work. This is done through our arts and cultural heritage program called FUNCA, which means simply the arts in Somali. Using spoken word, storytelling, visual arts, and plays, we provide critical opportunities for Somali youth and intercultural dialogues, which creates vital local connections, trust, and relationships. The FUNCA program includes 3 components: a weekly arts club, 3 8-week immersive workshops for youth with a recognized artist, and a public art presentation and intercultural community engagement. The amendment to House File 3438 will provide necessary funding, could provide necessary funding that will impact many communities in our state. This funding is vital and much needed. Since 2015, we have been recipients of the legacy funds through the Minnesota Humanities Center. Thank you. We are very grateful of those opportunities. This would not happen without your leadership. Chair and committee members, we have a lot of work ahead of us, especially in greater Minnesota, where every year more Somali Americans are moving across our state. There are few opportunities for intercultural dialogues. So there is tremendous amount of misunderstandings, fear, and people sometimes do get hurt mentally and physically in many ways. And we've seen that in the last few years. Together, we have the power to change the course on this. Moving forward, I hope you can consider this amendment that is before you today. We are living in a critical time and we need your continued leadership and advocacy on this issue. The need for this funding and the need for this amendment is obvious and vital. I would like to thank the chair and members of this committee for considering and pushing this amendment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Farah. Representative Murphy, do you have a question for Mr. Farah? Representative Murphy, you're on mute, so I don't know if you do.
Yes, I do have a question, and for any of the other people that are going to testify, when you tell us about the need and who we're serving, please tell us back how the committee will hear about how the money is being spent.
Mr. Farah.
Madam Chair and Representative Mary Murphy, I apologize. Good question. We would love to provide the reports of our previous work across the state, and also in future, we would love to provide all the participants in our program and the impact that we've had both in the Somali community and greater the communities as well.
Good, because that's very important, as Representative Green said previously, so that we know that the money is being used in the right spots and how many new people are being exposed to the funding through your advocacy. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. Next on my list for testimony is David Kelleher from the Minnesota Historical Society. Mr. Kelleher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, I'm David Kelleher from the Minnesota Historical Society. And sorry, I'm watching 2 committees at the same time, and I want to make sure I don't live stream the other one onto this one. It's that kind of day. Minnesota Historical Society Director Kent Whitworth sends his greetings. He's in the other committee right now waiting to testify. Madam Chair, Chair Lilly, members of the committee, my message is very simple and brief. Thank you. Minnesota Historical Society and the history community across the state of Minnesota, thank you for your support for our work in this bill and in previous years as we work to preserve Minnesota's history for today's Minnesotans and for future generations. We look forward to working with you as this bill moves through the process, and happy to answer any questions. And I will take Representative Murphy's question. And I think the very simplest way to answer that is you have all seen our annual report, which provides a fairly complete accounting of how we do this work and where the money goes. We work hard to make everyone have programs so that Minnesotans can participate in those programs through communications in various ways. So we work hard to make sure that everyone knows about what we're doing, both on the legislative level and on the public level for participation. So again, we thank you for your support in this bill and previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelleher.